Hey everyone, I'm back, and today we're going to be talking about the Amityville Horror, the remake from 2005, starring Ryan Reynolds and produced by Michael Bay. And I have never seen this movie before. I just recently watched the original from '79, and since this was also on HBO Max like the original, I thought, hey, let's watch this one. Why not? Let's see what this is like. Watched it, and I have one positive about this movie. It was only 90 minutes. Aside from that, I pretty much hated everything else about this movie. The opening scene was hilarious to me and was very cheesy because of the way it was edited and put together. And there were moments where I could barely make out what was happening. And I was like, this is an R rated movie. Why is all the violence being obscured and we're not really seeing what we should be seeing? And it's just difficult to make out. I want to be disturbed. Why won't you disturb me? And the editing in this movie overall was terrible. It wasn't just in that opening scene, it was throughout the entire film. Not in every single scene where it was like that, but overall, I just felt like I was watching a 90-minute trailer based on the editing alone, where it was just like cut, 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 and I couldn't make out what was going on half the time. And other times I was just thinking, like, this doesn't feel natural. I feel like there's some stuff missing, things aren't properly developed, and Ryan Reynolds, his character just going crazy was just hilarious to me. Whenever he was angry, I just couldn't take him seriously, and he was honestly dragging the movie down a lot. And I don't hate Ryan Reynolds, but I just felt he was miscast for this movie because some of his jokes didn't land for me. I'll get into another reason as to why not only he didn't work for me, but also the characters didn't work for me. But that we'll be discussing in just a moment. But back to Ryan Reynolds, him just not working for me. Everything he was doing just felt out of place, and he just felt like he was in a different movie almost. Another reason as to why he didn't work for me, and the reason why a lot of the acting didn't work for me, is the dialect. I never once believed that these characters were in the '70s. They all talked like they were in 2005, which is a big problem for a movie that is a period piece. Like, why is this movie not set in any other time? Why isn't it set in modern day where you don't have that problem? I get it, it's based on a true story, but still, you can make changes if things aren't working out. And there are parts of this movie that remind you that Michael Bay had a hand in this movie. There's a scene where there's a babysitter character that walks in, and she doesn't have a major role, but it's pretty much the antithesis of the original film, where there was a babysitter, but I could buy her as a babysitter, like responsible, knew what she was doing, and she gets locked in a closet and gets scared, and there's blood on the door because she keeps banging on the door. And nice, simple, and to the point. But in this movie, they change it up, and instead of it just being a typical regular girl who's watching after these kids for at night, we have a character who comes in and she's looks like almost she's trying to be a model and trying to look pretty. And we have a 12-year-old boy in this movie, and he's trying to say, I'm old enough, I don't need a babysitter. Oh. It's literally like that. I'm not even kidding. It was cringe. It's just cringe, and I couldn't take it seriously. And if all of that wasn't bad enough, the character was just like irresponsible, and I just didn't buy her as a babysitter. I was like, how do you have a job as a babysitter? I also wasn't scared by anything in this movie. There were jump scares in this movie, lots of them, and half of the time they were just for the audience and didn't affect the characters at points, but also when they happen, not every time, but sometimes, it was actually kind of funny to me. I was like, wow, you really did that. It was kind of embarrassing and also just stupid. I was like, what are we doing here? And there are changes made to this movie, and I am of the opinion that the original film isn't actually all that great. I'm not big on it, but I do feel as though it is a film that could be remade and be improved upon. This is definitely a movie that remade that story and redid it, Would I call it an improvement? Absolutely not. Every single change that they make to this movie was not for the better. It was actually part of the problem. I was like, wow, I actually have some newfound appreciation for the original because it just makes sense as to why you would do certain things, and things kind of work in that original. And it gives you such a better appreciation. Not saying the original is perfect and I still have my issues with it, but wow. In comparison, this is like just schlock, complete schlock. And if you think there are moments in the original that are kind of cheesy, like I mentioned when I was talking about the original with the early on, those scenes where our two main leads are just looking around the house towards the beginning, and we get little snippets of flashbacks to the murders being happening. I was like, why did that need to happen? That could have been cut out. If you think stuff like that's distracting, like this is something else. This is just dialed up to 11. Like, I have no idea what they were even going for. And there are parts of this movie where it made me feel like, what am I even watching at this point? And I also feel as though this movie mishandled our main character, George, played by Ryan Reynolds. I didn't mention that yet, but the character's name is George. And this movie, it kind of treats George as though he's being built up to be the villain of the movie. In the original film, you could possibly take that away and say, oh, the dad's kind of crazy, kind of like in The Shining. There's some similarities here, if you want to just like take it at face value. But my interpretation from the original is that he wasn't the villain in that movie. He was just a character who was losing his mind and eventually snapped. He wasn't the villain, but in this movie, they kind of tried to build him up or at least treat him like the villain at times, which I feel is such a big mistake. And there's lots of forced drama in this movie. There's nothing in this movie that makes any sense as to why things happened in the way that they did. And it was just like random horror movie moments where it's trying to be a crowd pleaser and it just attempt to scare an audience from 2005, I guess. And this was their attempt, and it was just very lame, stupid, forgettable, and just pointless, ultimately. And a lot of my issues with this movie are issues that I had with the 2003 Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, also produced by Michael Bay. And once I realized that was a thing in my head, I was like, wow, maybe I should have avoided these remakes produced by Michael Bay because none of them are good, or at least the ones that I've seen. I've seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the remake, and the prequel, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the beginning, this, Friday the 13th, and A Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm not sure if he did any others, but this was another one, and they're all bad, and this might be my least favorite. The music was also kind of annoying and distracting. I never once took it seriously. It was just horror movie music that you would expect in this time period. And they didn't even try to make it memorable. It was just stock music that you could just find anywhere. And speaking of stock sounds, lots of stock sound effects that pulled me out of the experience. Did not particularly enjoy those moments. And the only way you could probably make this at least entertaining or decent for me, if I can't remember exactly when I had this thought, but I kind of figured if Sam Raimi directed this movie, it would be much more entertaining at the very least. And I just wished I was watching a Sam Raimi horror movie. And that's about all I have to say about the Amityville Horror from 2005. It was terrible, really boring, kind of funny at parts, but I will never be watching it again. It was 90 minutes. That's my only positive. It was shorter than the original, less boring because of it. So, with all that being said, I'm going to give the Amityville Horror from 2005 a 1 out of 10. Thank you for watching my videos. As always, if you enjoyed this review, be sure to leave a like and comment down below you thought of the Amityville Horror from 2005 and my social media links. It will all be in the description, so follow me there. And last but not least, subscribe to be a part of Foley Nation, and I'll see you when I get my next review up, and that is going to be for Terrifier from 2016. So look forward to that, but until I get that up, thank you for watching and have a great day.